And again, you have to look at the technical side, the mental side, and he's another player that I think has all the attributes that are conducive to a seamless first team transition, when the time comes.
Jay here, Stretford, Paddock. This is the Academy Review. Joining me as always is Finn, also known as Academy Scoop on social media. How are we doing, Finn?
Very well, thank you. How are you, Jay?
I'm all right, man. I had an interesting experience last week.
Yeah, what was that?
Went and imparted my knowledge to some students at a uni.
Oh, did
much
you?
as like you're going to impart your knowledge to the masses now with this Academy Review.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The reason I mentioned that is because you were there, in case people are wondering what is he on about. We've had the under-21s, we've had the under-18s. Where do you want to start this week?
We'll start in chronological order with the 21s.
Yeah.
So they travelled to Altrincham. Okay. Long old trek. Yeah. So they were playing against Altringham's first team in the something trophy.
Do you know what? I love the something trophy.
There's so many.
It's one of my favourite trophies,
Yeah.
do you know what? And it's the one that's eluded United. Yeah. Which is annoying.
I think this season they really won it. This is the one.
So, in the something trophy,
they got on very well. Altrincham put out a pretty strong team. I think it was close to their strongest first 11. United won 4-0.
Good. Like I like to see. Things you love to see.
And with these games against first team opposition, obviously the result is never the be all and end all, but it is a bonus when you can come away from it with a win. And United were really good, to be honest. Ethan Ennis was the star of the show, I'd say. Ended up picking up a hat trick. So his first goal came on the break, got set free on the edge of the box from Jack Morehouse, who was fantastic, really, really impressive. He's one of those players that can drive with so much power on the ball. Yeah. And he struggled with injury, so we've barely seen him in the last 2 years or so. But when he plays, it doesn't look like he's lost any pace from these injuries. And yeah, he can really drive through the middle of the pitch. And he released Ennis at just the right time on the left side at the edge of the box. And he finished with a lovely kind of finesse shot, looping into the top right corner. 1-0. I think that was in the 16th minute. So a nice early lead for United. And yeah, Morehouse continued to play really impressively throughout the first half at least. I think ball carriers are really underrated. I think a player that can dribble and drive with the ball is something that even a really organised, proactive press can't really account for. Yeah. You can be a great passer between the lines, but a great press can cut off those passing lanes, whereas a really strong ball carrier can kind of bypass that. Yeah. So that's something that Morehouse brings in abundance. And yeah, he started off the win for United. The second goal was an identical finish from Ennis. Yeah. So Harry Amas found himself actually in an inverted position on the right wing, which almost seemed like something that you'd expect to see instructed by Ruben Amorim with his inverted fullbacks, or at least wrong-footed fullbacks. So yeah, Amas was running down the wing. He cuts it across to Ibragimov. His shot was saved, and then it came out again to Ennis on the edge of the box. Another perfect finesse shot into the top right corner, identical to the first. It was 2-0 United within 30 minutes.
Good to see. Things you love to see.
Yeah.
With Ennis, obviously, I know you're going to get to the other goals as well, but bagging a hat trick. Yeah. Obviously doing really well. What's the situation with him? How far, or how where do you think he can progress to, and how far off first team football do you think he could be?
I'd love to see him given a chance. Yeah. Soon, as soon as possible, to be honest. He made, obviously Altrincham aren't playing at the highest level, but these are still senior pros, and he made them look a joke. Yeah. Really just took the mickey out of them. Every time he got on the ball, you could feel everyone in the stadium lean forward a couple of inches, because you just expect him to make something happen. Yeah. I think after his ACL injury that he suffered in 2022, he's now reached, if not surpassed, the levels that we saw from him for the under-18s. Right. Before that. He's just electric. He's got so much pace on the ball. He really, really drives with a lot of power. He's skillful. He makes good decisions in the final third. And I think he's someone that could bring a lot of value to United. One of our biggest issues, we saw it against Ipswich, is that decision making in the final third. You look at a Garnacho, who's obviously another academy graduate, and we have to remember he's still a young player.
Yeah, that's true.
He gets so much stick, but if he was at any other club, he wouldn't have this much pressure and so many eyes on him. But he is going to make those mistakes where his decision making just isn't quite there. And I think Ennis is someone who could really bring that if he did get a chance in the first team. So I think it's frustrating that he hasn't up to this point, and hopefully Amorim notices it. There were rumours that Amorim was at the game. It wasn't confirmed, but apparently he was, so he would have seen this performance. And I really do hope he gets a chance because he deserves it. And this season, I'd say he's been the under-21's most exciting attacker to watch. And yeah, again, he was fantastic. So.
If you could compare him to someone, just so we know what type of player he is, who would you compare him to?
He's got a bit of like Villa Grealish to him,
right? Okay.
But a little bit more kind of explosive, a little bit more of a runner. I just mean in his kind of dribbling style and finishing style, where he loves to cut in off the edge of the box like we saw twice. I'd say Grealish, to be honest.
Villa Grealish is my favourite type of Grealish. He went downhill when he went to say.
Exactly, yeah. He should have been a United player. He almost was, wasn't he?
He was a United fan, wasn't he? He's all those tweets
Apparently.
of him sort of celebrating United wins and slagging off City, and then I think he deleted all them when he got his big move.
Yeah, I hope he gets a chance soon because he definitely deserves it.
So that was 2-0. Talk us through the third and fourth goals.
Yeah, so the third one was Ibragimov. He combined well with Victor Musa in the box. Musa had an effort that was deflected really high, and Ibragimov found himself in the right position to just tap it home when it came down. Ibragimov was another really impressive player. He's pretty small, he's quite diminutive, but he's really robust. He really gets stuck in. He loves a challenge, he loves a tackle. He gets compared to Rooney a lot in that sense, the way he's just a bit of a bulldog off the ball. He runs for days, and he's a great athlete. But yeah, so he picked up his goal that night, and there was one moment where he received the ball in the final third, and I think the midfielder that was up against him was 32 or something, ran through the back of him, but Ibragimov held his own, held off the contact, managed to separate himself from him, nutmeg the next player on the edge of the box, and got a shot off, which, it wasn't the best effort, but those little sparks from Ibragimov are really exciting to see. And he's a player that we've heard about for so long, and we're finally consistently getting to see why there was that hype from him in the early age group. So really great to see him, impressing, and he was another great player for United on the night.
Good stuff. So talk us through the fourth goal then. Obviously Ennis getting his hat-trick.
Yeah, Ennis had been on a hat-trick for the whole second half. He had, I think, 3 or 4 different chances to do it, but he couldn't quite find that clinical finish. But in the end, he was set free by Ashton Missing on the right, in the right channel, and he did so well to time his finish right. He ran straight, kind of one-on-one into the goalie and chipped it at the right moment. And there was a lot of composure in the finish. It was really impressive, and he got his hat-trick. 4-0 United. It was brilliant.
To see it. Good stuff. And one we'll keep an eye on. We'll keep an eye on Ennis and obviously Ibragimov as well, because I've heard you talk about him quite a few times. Another very, very exciting prospect. So a comfortable win for Manchester United against Altrincham in the Something Cup. What about the under-18s against Leeds?
Against Leeds at Carrington, yeah. So this was in the under-18 PL Cup.
Right.
Obviously, United are defending this title from having won it last year.
Yep.
Played City in the final at Leigh Sports Village and came away with the trophy.
Love that. Double over City in finals last season.
They've actually struggled a little bit this season in the competition. Obviously, the only loss coming against Spurs, that 4-3 loss at Spurs. So United needed a 3-goal victory to be able to progress into the quarterfinals. Of course they did it. We fielded a really strong team for it, because I think obviously we want to defend the title and win it again second year running. One thing that was surprising was that Harry Amas and Jayden Kamason, who have both been starters for the 21s this season, dropped down to play for the 18s. So we could tell that we were taking it seriously.
I love that. Why not as well, especially against Leeds? You're defending your trophy and it's against Leeds United. Come on.
Yeah. It wasn't quite the same dominance that we saw from the last time. I think we beat them 8-0 last time at Carrington. But yeah, this one started with Jayden Kamason actually. He ran it down the right wing himself in the second minute. Obi-Martin ran into the box with him and he was there waiting for the cutback, but Kamason said, nope, taking it myself. Took a really lovely shot across goal, bottom left corner. 1-0 United after 2 minutes.
Good stuff.
So it's exactly the start that we needed, hoping for that 3-goal difference to be able to progress. And they started just how they intended. So, and Kamason was, for me, United's best player on the day, alongside Ibragimov. He was so dangerous on that right flank. He really gets involved in the attack. And I think he's a player that doesn't get talked about enough for United's academy sides. Maybe that's partly my fault.
Well, that's your job.
That is my job.
Responsibility for that. I blame you personally. Exactly.
But yeah, he's a player I'm really fond of, and gets really stuck in the attack. Contributes a lot on the edge of the box, and he's great at running it down the byline and cutting a ball across. In the first few games of the season, we saw him and Bendito Mantato link up really well on the right wing.
Yeah.
Obviously, because Kamason's mainly played for the 21s this season, we haven't seen that as much recently, but we got to see it again, and they were amazing, to be honest. They link up so well. They've got a great kind of relationship, and they always understand where the other player is, and they can always find each other on the ball. But yeah, so I think around the 30th minute, Kamason pulled off this amazing bit of skill on the right side of the box, ghosted through 2 players, and then did a little roulette turn before cutting it back to Scanlon, who should have scored, to be honest. He was about a yard out from the goal, and it was saved. But I think a few minutes later, Ibragimov plays the same ball over to Scanlon, and he makes it 2-0. Simple tap in.
Yeah.
Just what we need. 2-0 at 34 minutes in, I think.
Oh, it's on.
The 3-0 was very much on. Another Ibragimov assist, so he was on 2 assists already. Yeah, United made it 3 just before half time through who else but Chido Obi-Martin.
The probably the most spoken about youngster, I think, of all the ones we've got, and that is saying something considering the calibre of young players that Manchester United have on the books at the minute.
With the strength of this group, for him to be the most talked about, it says something about how he's regarded. But yeah, Kamason and Ibragimov both involved again. Kamason played a great kind of deep cross into the left side for Ibragimov to head across goal. Yeah, Chido Obi-Martin was there to tap it away. 3-0 before half time, just like that.
I want to just ask you quickly about Ibragimov, because you mention him a lot on this channel, and it's always positive things. It's goals, it's creating goals, it's stepping up when his team need him. Yeah. What type of a player is he? I know we've spoken about him briefly in the past. What type of player is he? Who could you compare him to, and how far off first team football do you think he could be?
Yeah, I think for him, it might be a little while till he's in the first team, because he does have a bit of growing to do. Yeah. But in terms of his contributions this season, it's been really impressive. And again, like I've said, he's someone that's been talked about in the younger age groups. You always hear about players in the under 15s, under 16s who maybe stand out from their group, and he's always been one of those. Yeah. He's very versatile. He can play essentially across the whole front line, or even as a number 8, as a number 10, wherever he's required to. He puts a shift in and he does a good job. So much quality on the ball. He's a great dribbler. He can he can receive on the half turn. He can evade pressure. He's very high quality. Usually plays midfield for the under 18s. Yeah. The constant comparison is Rooney, which feels silly to say, because there aren't many talents ever like Rooney, especially at 16. But in terms of that tenacity and energy he has off the ball, I called him a bit of a bulldog earlier, because he will just run for days. And yeah, I think that's why fans love him so much, is because he just puts such a shift in, but he doesn't lack in the quality. Right.
Okay. So you could say he's a Rooney type player, but we're not saying we expect him to see him scoring in the Premier League. He will score in the Premier League by the time he's before his 17th birthday. Yes. Right. Okay. Sound. Well, there you heard it here first. There. So you can go and put money on that. There's another youngster I want to talk about who we thought was going to be on the bench. Me and you were talking for the United versus or Ipswich versus United game, and this is Godwill Kukonki. You've spoken about him a lot. Obviously, I think he's 16, 6'5", central defender. There was reports that he was training with the first team, that maybe Ruben Amorim looked at him and thought, okay, he could be part of the squad. He travelled down with the squad, but he didn't actually make the squad, I don't think. Yeah. Just tell us a little bit about him. I know we've spoken about him in the past, but what is it about this player you think that Ruben Amorim is at least getting him travelling with the squad, if not quite picking him just yet?
I think obviously the big initial standout about him is his physical frame. Yeah. at 16, his size is just a joke. He's 6'3", I think. I in the past, I've said he's 6'5".
Sorry, forgive me. That's probably me adding a little bit of height to him. Not that he needs it. 6'3" at 16.
Yeah, and he's not just tall, but it seems like he's already filled out his frame completely. He's got a lot of muscle on his frame. Just so strong and such a physical presence for his size, for his age. Sorry, and it's immediately apparent when you watch him for the under-18s. You know, he bullies players, and he just stands out, towering above players. So that's the standout, and I think that's why Amorim would have, you know, picked him ahead of the other options, the other defensive options. Obviously, with Martinez and Yoro not in the squad, he got the nod to at least travel with the squad,
which is good to see for a 16-year-old as well. So be travelling with the Manchester United squad is no mean feat.
No, not
doesn't
at all.
happen a lot.
No.
It's very, very rare. It's been rare, sort of going back years.
Yeah.
So for him to be even in that conversation, shows you something about him. One of the sort of concerns I always have with younger players who are physically bigger and stronger than some of their counterparts is, have they got that quality that they need? Because you get to a point where you might be towering above the under-18s or academy players, but when you get into men's football, shall we say, you no longer have that element of being physically bigger and stronger than a lot of the players you're facing. Does he have the quality there? I mean, he might end up carry on growing and still be big or whatever. He might be able to mix it up with the, you know, the professionals now, but does he have the quality that you need to really make the top level? Yeah,
I think it's a good point, and in those cases you have to look at the technical attributes, their decision making and kind of mental profile, and you know, he doesn't turn 17 until February, so he's got a lot of time to continue to grow and improve. But I'd say he absolutely has the qualities that you'd be looking for in terms of his ball playing. He reads the game really intelligently. He's not just an athlete. He is a high quality defender that makes good decisions. He shows composure in the way he defends and the way he brings the ball out from the back. And so I'm not worried that it's just physicality, because he does have a lot of those attributes that you'd look for. A lot of people raise that question with Chido Obi-Martin as well. They say, he scores 1 million goals a season, but is it just because he's that tall and that big that he's scoring all these goals? And again, you have to look at the technical side, the mental side, and he's another player that I think has all the attributes that are conducive to a seamless first team transition, you know, when the time comes. So not something I'm too worried about.
You can usually tell. Like you can usually tell the players that perhaps rely on the physical side of things a little bit more than the others, that helps them when they're at, and it's usually, to be fair, a level a little bit younger than this. It's usually like sort of when you're sort of 14, 15, that is what you can fall back on. Not always, but a good example of someone who was almost like a man playing against boys but still had that technical ability was Paul Pogba. I remember watching Paul Pogba in the academy, and he stood out, but you could see it was more than just he was physically stronger and quicker and
definitely,
you know, and more athletic or whatever than some of his counterparts. He had that technical ability as well. And I know Paul Pogba's, you know, one of the best academy prospects we've ever had, so I know that's sort of a bit of an outlier, but the point I'm getting is you could tell that it wasn't just the physicality, and I think you can see the difference in certain players.
I think some people overcomplicate player development sometimes. Sometimes the eye test is enough. Sometimes you can just trust your gut in saying this player looks quality. If he does, he's probably quite good. People overcomplicate it and ask a lot of questions sometimes, but I think you can tell when a player has the right qualities to go on and succeed regardless of the physical attributes. There are players that United have had over the years, obviously I won't name names, but there are players who have been more just athleticism and not much end product and not much else going for them. It's definitely not the case in Kukonki's in Kukonki's case. He's got a lot of quality and a lot of reasons to eventually make that jump, but just because he's travelled with the first team once doesn't mean that he's suddenly now going to start playing every week for the first team. I think he's still a little way off and he should be given time to adapt to that level. It's a great experience for him to be involved in a match day, and I think it's a big green flag from Amorim as well, to show that he's taking an interest in the youth and he's already picking out who he likes and who he could see making a transition into the first team. So positives to be taken from it, but also let's not get let's not go overboard about it, because all these youngsters still have a little way to go before they're ready.
No, it's good to see, and like you say, you've got to keep them grounded. He's still he's 17 in February, so he's still obviously only a very young lad. But every time I speak to you about him, whenever I read up on him, whenever I see any footage, he looks the real deal, and hopefully he'll have a very, very good career, long career at Manchester United ahead of him. Finn, always a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to seeing you back on the channel same time next week.
Absolutely,
going through some more academy stuff. Make sure you check out Academy Scoop on your social media. He'll be giving you updates on all the latest academy news, and as always, he's the first one to know a lot of what's going on when it comes to our youngsters, so make sure you check him out. You know where to find me as well. That's been Finn. I've been Jay. This has been Academy Review. Thanks for watching.